This is a very, very important question that you have asked. So many parents are suffering from this kind of a guilt. See newborns who have eczema already just within a couple of hours. Then it's a very big question. What is it that might have happened? Humans are evolved to live in nature, in a microbial world.
Parent like me having the same kind of issues, what you can suggest for them, like what should they do?
Let us break it down into the mechanisms of why it must have happened and how we can prevent it, because that's what we are all aiming for. Our children were born in a world where it's too sterile, too clean, and majority of them have taken many rounds of antibiotics already. A comprehensive gut microbiome testing gives very good insights into what is happening in the gut, how the skin can be supported. The gut impacts the skin. There's a gut skin axis. We had skin issues running in our family, and I thought, oh, I'm never going to get rid of it. But my skin, now this is winter, it's clear. It's the middle of the night. You're trying to soothe your baby. The baby's tiny fingers are scratching at inflamed skin. The baby's eczema. You are feeling helpless after having tried so many different things for days, weeks, maybe even months. What is it that we can do? Do not despair. There's hope. There are things that we can do. There are things that we can learn. Let us focus on how we can prevent all of these or get proper solutions to treat eczema, to prevent eczema in children, in adults. Let us look at the root cause of it. So, welcome back to this super exciting episode of the Microbiome Superhero podcast. And here I have today our co host, Renuka Kelkar. Welcome, Renuka. Renuka, of course, you all know her. She's again one of the co founders of our company, Arna Next Solutions.
Hi everyone. So Rashmi, what is our topic today? What we want to talk? The eczema.
Yes, because so many people, if we look at the statistics, there are 20 to 25% of children who are suffering from eczema. It is such a common thing. Parents are really struggling to provide solutions for these children. So I thought, why not focus on it? And what better a time? Because it's winter. Even adults are suffering from eczema. I'm sure you know a lot more about that.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a Christmas time for everyone. Everyone is taking off from the job and have a festive season in UK and I think all over the world as well. But when you think about the a cold days, we most of the people have agree with me that people are getting the eczema problem. And when you talk about the eczema, and we always talk about the microbiome, right? So Rashmi, and I'm a curious George all the time asking you so many questions, right? But being a parent of child who are suffering from the eczema by born, so I think this is a really important topic for my life. Basically, that's why I thought I am a good person to talk here. My question is that, is it related to the microbiome? First thing is, eczema is related to the microbiome. What do you
Yes,
think?
that is a very, very good question, and I want to know why you are asking this question. So let us go to the background of it. What is it that you have seen which brought you to asking questions about?
So I will give you the little bit background why I'm asking this question, because sometimes you go out, you can get some rash or something, and we put the some anti-rash cream or whatever things, and it goes away, right? That I can understand. But when you are newborn baby, just 2 hours old baby has got eczema, and it was really bad. When he my son was born, he was having a clear skin, okay, but after 2 hours he has started getting all the rashes, and his skin is getting really bad, and it worries me a lot. And I feel sometimes guilty about that. And why I'm guilty? Because in my whole pregnancy, I'm going through many medical challenges. because I had a gallbladder removal, and I had a whole 9 months. What do you say? The morning sickness. Then I had the problem with my skin as well, because I'm had a very like a scratching screen all over 9 months. So I feel like that because of me, my baby suffer, and that guilt I always carry with me. So that's why I thought I should ask you this first question: is eczema is related to the microbiome, or is it related to the like a mom passing to their children, something like that? What do you think about this
This is a
basically?
very, very important question that you have asked. So many parents are suffering from this kind of a guilt that you are also suffering from. When we see such a painful thing like a newborn with eczema, you would think that it is environmental exposures that cause eczema. Like you rightly said, we go out, we are exposed to something, and then we get rashes or eczema or anything on our skin. But when we see newborns who have eczema already just within a couple of hours, then it's a very big question. What is it that might have happened? There is no such exposure happening outside yet because it's a newborn we are talking about. But if we step back and take a look at how the newborn is developing, whatever is happening in the mother impacts what happens with the baby. So you asked a very good question: is the microbiome involved? Yes, it is heavily involved in how the skin of a newborn develops. When the baby is in the womb, all of the organs are developed. All of this is dependent on the maternal nutrition, on the mother's gut microbiome, and how the gut microbiome metabolites are passing on to this fetus or the developing baby. And this determines the health of all of the organs. We know that if we eat foods that are good for brain development, they are going to help the baby in brain development. People traditionally drink milk with saffron so that the skin is healthy. So whatever the mom does, the mother does, actually is impacting or is going to impact the baby. So interestingly, what is happening is skin development is also occurring in this baby. Now the interesting point here is that there is immune system development also that occurs at this time. So if the mother's immune system is reacting to things in her body, if the microbiome is very, very disturbed or dysbiotic, then it is not going to provide the healthy metabolites or the compounds that the baby is going to receive. And skin development is something, the skin is one of the largest organs of our body, it covers our entire body. So it is very sensitive, especially to all of these metabolites. This eczema comes from poor development of the skin because the skin is not receiving what it should receive. And it is getting irritated by the other harmful metabolites that the mother's microbiome is producing. And there's also immune response that is against the skin. All of these are causing poor skin development, so to say. This is why it looks like it is injured, it has this eczema like appearance. And you had told me before when we talked earlier that it looked like there were injuries on the skin.
Yes, yes. It
Yes.
was really, really bad. Like a two days baby as having a kind of wound on his face or anything. Like a I when I remember last like a first 4 years of his life, we are just struggling. Like we can't sleep in the night. Like it was really nightmare for both of us basically, because he couldn't get nice sleep in the night. Whole day scratching night all the time. We tried so many medications, like a doctor are tried and testing new things on his skin, and sometimes it works, sometimes it's getting worse, and that stress again causing me so much problem. And the interesting thing is that because we are in UK, but my doctor suggests me that you should go to India. And that was my surprising that like a people thoughts that like a, oh, India pollution blah blah blah, right? But my doctor suggested me you should go to India because that atmosphere changes his eczema. Does that atmosphere also causing the eczema things, Rashmi?
Yes, yes. So there are two very important points to consider here. What you just talked about is so critical because there are many studies that show in industrialized nations the diversity of the microbiome is much poorer. It is much lesser diverse. And when we talk about why it is important, if you are have not had an introduction to the gut microbiome or any microbiome, let me highlight that our microbiome is our invisible organ. It plays many different roles in helping us digest the food we eat, in training our immune system, in keeping our skin intact when we are talking about our skin microbiome. So there are many thousands of functions, and we still don't know what else the gut microbiome or the skin microbiome does. We don't know everything about it. But when we live in nations that are industrialized, firstly, there are many chemicals in the environment. Secondly, it is too sterile because there are disinfectants being used everywhere. Things are just too clean. They are not nature related. Humans are evolved to live in nature, in a microbial world. So when we try to separate that, it causes dysbiosis, or it causes a huge imbalance in our skin microbiome, in our gut microbiome, and everything else related to that. So this is why you see increased incidences of eczema, anything related to the skin microbiome, to the gut microbiome. All of these are exacerbated in nations that are industrialized. You see the same even for people who are migrating from India to the US. I have seen it firsthand. When I went to the US, I used to be underweight when I was in India, and suddenly the diversity of my microbiome must have dramatically dropped when I moved to the US. I gained 10 kilograms, 10 kgs in the first 6 months. I had the worst cystic acne for all 5 years while I was there. So there were a lot of changes. So definitely it is all dependent on the skin microbiome and the gut microbiome. So when you were asked to travel back to India, that was to repopulate the microbiome because it is still developing. It is still not sterile. There are many places in India where you would still get a huge diversity of the microbiome. People are still eating a traditional, healthy, diverse diet. Places are a lot more crowded. There are a lot more outdoor things to do, and it's very different from completely industrialized nations. This is not about comparing countries or anything like that. This is something that we are just talking about how humans have evolved to be in a microbial world and how we are taking it away from everything. That's why we are seeing this increased incidence of all of these skin issues, eczema. So if you see 20 to 25% of children are suffering from eczema, it is such a painful condition.
Yeah, that's true. Like when we moved to India, first I think first 1 or 2 months it take him time to adjust the things around the surrounding and other stuff. But yeah, his condition got improved. So we were there for 2 years, and he the eczema is completely gone for him. We don't take any kind of steroids or anything. And once we came back again the problem starts. So like a parent like me having the same kind of issues, what you can suggest for them, like what should they do, like
Let us break it down into the mechanisms of why it must have happened and how we can prevent it, because that's what we are all aiming
okay.
for. So when you are talking about skin development, so this is not just about newborns but even for adults. Whenever we are talking about skin health, it is dependent on the microbiome that is present on the skin and the microbiome that is present in the gut. So the skin microbiome helps keep it intact because the skin cells have to be together. There has to be a tight, barrier. It has to be intact, and the gut microbiome also plays a supporting role by providing it with the metabolites or the nutrients that the skin requires. Now, if we think of collagen or anything else that is required for a healthy, supple skin, all of that is made in the gut. It doesn't come directly from the skin. So both of these things are very important. Of course, there are many other things we can talk about, like stress, like mindfulness, like getting enough oxygen, and those things are separate. But when we do not get those, when we don't have a good enough microbiome on the skin, on in the gut, then what happens is the skin starts breaking, it starts having gaps, it starts getting injured. The other thing that is happening is there is our immune system or the immune cells that are in our skin, that are in our gut. 70% of our immune system is in our gut. Immune system training happens in children when they are new. Their immune system is also new, it is learning at that point. If it learns the wrong things because it doesn't have a good enough microbiome, then it starts attacking itself. It's attacking its own skin as well. So it is learning the wrong things. There are so many things that are going against proper skin development. This is the reason why we see increased incidences of eczema. But in contrast, if you take this to industrializing nations or places where you would have a good enough exposure of microbiome, you would get microbes from everywhere, from the soil, from the water, or from the environment that you live in. And then you would have a repopulation in the gut, on the skin. Then immune system training would also happen, that the immune system knows that it should not attack itself. When all of these are happening, when you get the right kind of nutrients, then skin health is improved. That's probably what you saw when you took your son back to an environment which was very conducive of a good microbiome. And when you took him out of that environment again, you saw a repeat of. So you can clearly see the link of what happened there.
Yeah, so Rashmi, I have one another question. Like when we have a small kids, like in UK, if you go to any supermarket, right, and you have a very lovely section of the small babies thing, so you will get see like a if it is 0 to 3 months, you can give this food, like a kind of things like what you do when the baby in that age.
Yes.
Okay, when after 6 months you start with the fruit puree and other thing, right, and the food as well, the gerber and all this stuff, and it looks so nicely. I think for the newborn baby you can have the formula milk as well. So does it also cause the eczema kind of inflammation or anything? Because I feel like when my baby is in India, we have so many servants and other stuff, and whole fresh cooked meal every time I carry with him. I don't use any kind of pre-box or pre-bottle meal for my son in India. And because of that, his taste bud is completely different now. He can't eat any hotel food. He just like a homemade food. But does it matters for the microbiome? What kind of food you eat?
What the points are very very important. We see all of these companies trying to sell products, and they are aiming newborns, they are aiming pregnant women, pregnant parents, prospective parents. And then parents have this pressure that, oh, am I providing the best for my child? This looks really good. Now, looks really good doesn't mean, it doesn't translate to feels really good. It doesn't translate to good health at all in many cases. So when we are giving our children packaged food that like that, when it is processed at such an early start, it may say no preservatives, but it is still processed. It is not fresh. It just cannot compare to something wholesome that is prepared at home. So I'm not saying that you leave everything else and start preparing everything from scratch. That is not what we are trying to say. But when we want to solve all of these issues, yes, we have to go back to this. Are we going to be blinded by all of these commercials? And are we going to feel guilty about not giving these things? When we provide fresh foods to children that have the right kind of textures, when children get used to the taste of real foods that are not processed, the taste of real foods versus a puree that you would buy from any supermarket that has been stored for a long time, even when it does not have preservatives, is completely different. And this is where the divide starts, that children either get used to these fresh foods or they get used to these processed foods. That is going to dictate their lifelong habits of how they are going to choose their foods. When we choose foods that are fresh, that are not processed, that are wholesome, it improves the quality and the diversity of our gut microbiome. We are able to select microbes that are very very healthy for us, that are going to make chemicals that make us healthy and strong, not just physically but emotionally and mentally as well. So that is a gimmick, that it's a marketing gimmick that everybody uses, and we really have to stay away from that, especially for children, where they need to learn the real taste of food. The other point you mentioned about formula. Now, I'm not saying that everybody can breastfeed. Of course, it is
Yeah.
something that is not possible. There are medical issues, there are other issues. But what happens when children are fed with artificial formula? It cannot mimic mother's milk. Mother's milk is customized for her baby. It has these human milk oligosaccharides which can only be digested not by the baby but by the microbes in her gut, that she has given, the gift that she has given during the process of birth. So those are not enriched by formula feeding, unfortunately. So a lot of cascading effects happen when we choose all of these processed foods that are commercially available, that are easy to use, and so-called convenience factor is added to it. So we think that, oh, there's this guilt of not being good enough. We cannot give our baby the time of whatever is required, quality time. So let's spend money on the baby. The money issue is not going to solve any of these.
Okay. So the things is like right now we are just talking about the by born having the eczema.
Yes.
But sometimes what happened, Rashmi, some kids because I'm in that circle whose kids are having the eczema, and we have a kind of chatting all the time that okay, what happened with you, what is your story, something we are always discussing within our group. So I feel like not every kids are having a eczema when they born, but suddenly after 10 years, after 5 years, suddenly it triggers. I don't understand why it is not there 5 years before and why it is now. So suddenly this kind of condition happens. What is the reason behind that then?
Yes, there could be many different factors why this happens, but it depends on where those people live, what is the kind of diet they are having, and if the mother's microbiome is healthy, the child that she gives birth to is going to be healthy. And then later on, it depends on what the child is eating, what the child's environment is, what kind of stress the child is dealing with, what kind of sedentary behavior. Is the child sedentary? Is the child eating junk food? Now we see a huge prevalence of that as well. So that is when the gut microbiome of the child, independent of the mother, is totally disturbed. And this gut microbiome, even the skin microbiome for that matter, because children in many schools, I don't know how it is in the UK, in many places they're mandated to carry hand sanitizers with their lunch boxes because they are not given enough time to even eat, leave alone washing hands properly. So they end up using hand sanitizers. And as I said, that we need a skin microbiome to keep the skin intact. Now imagine these kids using antibacterial hand soaps or hand sanitizers to completely sterilize their hands all the time. Where is this microbiome going to come from?
Hmm.
So that's why their microbiome keeps getting more and more depleted. And then parents think that, oh, they have to be healthy, they shouldn't fall sick. So there are antibiotics that they are given all the time. Because if anything as simple as a cough or a cold happens, people rush to doctors and they want antibiotics to be given, which again deplete the microbiome. How many times have children taken antibiotics in the first 10 years? How many rounds of antibiotics have they taken?
I will tell the story. I will tell you the funny story.
Yes.
I know it is a very serious discussion here, but some people who came from India or some kind of Asian country who can understand what I'm telling now. That because the UK always have a bad weather, okay, all the time cold and cough, that things going on, and I think the doctors in UK are really smart and they know what they want. They don't give you the antibiotics, okay, they ask you to just take care like a home remedy or give the paracetamol and all these things, but the patience of the parents, right, it's not like that. They what they do that they bring some antibiotics taken from India or any their own country, and if they feel that okay, this is now it's not going really well, they started that antibiotics their own choices to their kids. It helps them. That baby can cure definitely. That doesn't have any problem. But now I understand you are saying that antibiotics kills the microbiome, and then this problem, because many parents like me, I used to do that, but after getting this knowledge I stopped completely. And the good thing is that from last many, I think 2 3 years after the COVID, I haven't given a single antibiotic to my kids.
Yes, so when we talk about antibiotics, and what you have said is very important, because I'm sure in UK, just like in Qatar also, they are not available over the counter. You just cannot go and
Yeah,
buy antibiotics on your own.
yeah.
Here also, doctors are very careful about prescribing, especially now. It used to be different earlier, but now they are not that easily prescribed. But when they're available over the counter, people try to hoard them and they want to give their children antibiotics on their own. We have to understand here that 99% of our microbiome is made of bacteria. Antibiotics work only against bacteria. They are there to kill bacteria. So what is going to happen to our microbiome? Majority of it will be destroyed. So it is going to stop supporting us. It is our organ, invisible. Even if it is invisible, it is still our organ. So that is something that people don't know, they don't understand. And when children have these coughs or colds or whatever, which are very common in winter, even adults do, they might not necessarily be bacterial infections, they can be viral infections. Majority of the colds, even the flu virus, COVID, it was a viral infection. Now antibiotics don't do anything on viruses. They can even be allergies. Allergies are completely different. Allergies are not even infections. So when you are saying that people give antibiotics and then they see a difference, that difference would have been even without the antibiotic, because viral infections are self-limiting, they take 7 days to resolve. Allergies also go away on their own many times. So people really have to be very careful about these. And the point I was trying to highlight is our children were born in a world where it's too sterile, too clean, and majority of them have taken many rounds of antibiotics already. Do you remember doing that when you were a child? That did not happen. The antibiotics that are prescribed now are much stronger than they used to before. This is why children are seeing eczema. And the introduction of junk food, screen time also depletes the microbiome. So if we have so many things that are happening in children's lives, how are they not going to have eczema? They have a very poor microbiome because of all of the factors that are going on in their lives. How is their skin going to develop normally? How much sunlight exposure are they getting? How much time are they spending outdoors?
Yeah,
So there are
that's
many
true.
factors. And then what you talked about, that when you went back to this condition that you had during pregnancy, you
Yeah.
said that you had itchy skin throughout all the
Yeah,
night.
the whole 9 month I had a itchy skin. Then actually, I will tell you the story because this is I am talking about my second child. But when I had a first child, I had a same kind of problem. But kind of what to say, I had a very bad morning sickness. I like a lose 8 kg in my pregnancy. Normally, women get gain the weight, right? But I lose my weight 8 kg, and after the delivery suddenly I get gaining the weight, and it was sudden increase in my weight after the delivery. And what happened, after 2 months I started get a problem with my gallbladder,
Yes.
and I had a really emergency operation in that case. And this is completely shocking for me, and that problem starts from there. I had a 6 year gaps in my both kids, so it was started a 6 year ago, and it continues still my second baby as well. And that guilt is with me, that okay, because of me my kids are facing these issues.
See, you don't need to be guilty about it, because of course parents do not know, that we don't did not have this information. Of course, I'm sure you did not know about what is happening, but it's the condition that the women go through. It's seen quite commonly, that it's called intrahepatic cholestasis, where there's a disruption in the bile flow going from the liver to the intestine. That's when bile acids start accumulating in blood. This is what causes the itching. It's called pruritus. That's why this crazy itching happens on the skin for the pregnant women. And when that happens, this bile acid is going to disrupt the gut microbiome because it's in excess. There is too much of this bile acid. And when the gut microbiome is disturbed, as I said, the skin development is not going to be normal for the baby. This is why we see increased incidences. There are several studies that have also linked this IHC, or intrahepatic cholestasis, to eczema in children later on. That's why you see it in newborns, because it has been happening throughout the development of the fetus. It's not something that happens after birth. It has been happening even before that. That's why you see
Yeah,
these different ranges. Some babies have too much of a flare, it looks like a wounded skin. Some have it at a lesser extent. You did not see the same with your first child. You saw a lot more in the second one, and then you had to go for
yeah,
the gallbladder surgery after that, because it
yeah,
was more severe in the second. So it's all
yeah.
linked to what is happening with the gut microbiome. But if we are aware of this, then we can have. Now we talked about the problems, are there any solutions?
Yeah, that is my next question for you. Yeah, you have given the whole information about this, but what is the solution? Because of being a parent, is there any solution where we can get to know and what to do? Like, what is the solution? How we can improve without any steroids or any kind of medication?
So we know why all of this has happened. So can we solve it? There are things that we can recommend. The first thing, if there are severe cases of eczema, like you told about your son, he was born with all of this severe things, like it looked like wounded skin, we would highly recommend doing microbiome testing to see what is happening in the gut, so that we see which beneficial microbes are missing, what are the key microbes that are missing, are there any infections that the baby has caught on, is the baby growing up with infectious microbes in the gut. Those are the things definitely we would like to test. A comprehensive gut microbiome testing gives very good insights into what is happening in the gut, how the skin can be supported, because there's something, like I told, what happens in the gut impacts the skin. There's a gut skin axis. So this is why microbiome testing is very, very important. And then what we can do is we can add a lot of fermented foods which give us different kinds of live germs. I am not, again, once more talking about the idli, dosa, dhokla, not the ones that are cooked after the process of fermentation. This is something that we hear again and again and again, that, oh, I'm eating fermented foods. No, we want the germs to be living, we want them alive. So these are the germs that go and colonize our gut. Eating a very diverse diet, a plant-based diet that is rich in fiber, getting healthy fats. Now, I had very bad skin during winter. My knuckles used to be black. So this was 3 years ago. I used to suffer from that every year. The cracked black knuckles that used to be bleeding. We had skin issues running in our family, and I thought, oh, I'm never going to get rid of it. But when I incorporated healthier fats in my diet, including cold pressed oils, cold pressed sesame and groundnut oil, coconut oil, and ghee, increased the consumption of ghee even more, my skin, now this is winter, it's clear. That black skin and the cracked knuckles completely stopped when I focused on gut health, when I focused on healthy fats in my diet. So there are many, many things when we focus on our diet and reduction of stress, including mindfulness practices, including meditations, exercise, including outdoor activities. When I focused on all of these, there was a huge improvement in my skin. So I had cystic acne like 3 years ago. Even in my 40s, I had huge cystic acne. So all of my skin issues were fixed. This is also true for people who have eczema.
Okay, I think Shashmi, you are saying about the microbiome testing. I think maybe this is the next topic for us for the next podcast. Definitely, I will do the microbiome testing for my son, and then we can discuss the report of the microbiome testing and what you can suggest us,
Absolutely.
like a
It
what
would be a
kind
very
of
good idea.
things. Yeah, that is what I'm just thinking now, because like parents like me having this question in their mind all the time. Let me experiment what you are suggesting, that do the microbiome testing. I will do that for my son, and then you can tell me what should I do after that and how I can get the benefit from that basically.
Yes, microbiome
That's a
testing also gives a customized, tailored diet according to your microbiome. So it is very specific. It tells what is missing and what to add to get those microbes back in your body. It's a very customized, very personalized test, comprehensive test. It also gives ideas about whether the person has antibiotic resistance or not. The results are
okay.
very shocking. Many people have antibiotic resistance. So, if we do microbiome testing, we can get all of this information. And as you said, let us do it. Let us see how we
Yeah,
can
that
be
is the thing.
practically
Yeah.
done.
Because we just want to find the actual reality, how it works, and how we can cure ourselves without any medicine.
Yes,
And that is our like a main goal of the thing. Because
absolutely.
we frustrated with using a steroid whole life. So I don't want to go in that. Really, really. But yes, thank you so much, Rashmi, to giving all this information. And yeah, thanks everyone to joining and listening to us. But definitely watch our next podcast after I'm doing the microbiome testing for my son.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Renuka. Thank you. The questions were really very, very relevant, very useful. I'm sure many people can relate, they can resonate with what we discussed today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, viewers, if you learnt anything about eczema, how it happens in newborns, how it happens in children, how it happens in even adults, there are many tips that we have shared throughout the podcast. There are many of these reasons. Take a look at your lifestyle, take a look at your children's lifestyle. If you like this video, do share it with others who might benefit from this. do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. See you in the next one.